Subscribe now because this isn't just a celebrity scandal. It's the unraveling of a legacy that started on Harlem's streets and might end in a federal courtroom. And if you blink, you'll miss how deep the rabbit hole really goes. Because Jim Jones, the Dipset capo, wasn't just caught slipping. He might have walked into a setup that's been building for years. And when the feds finally snatched him, they didn't just have a warrant. They had receipts. Recordings and whispers from the inside, because racketeering isn't a charge you catch on accident. It's built off patterns, power plays, and someone talking. And what makes this case worse is the eerie calm that followed his arrest. Like he saw it coming, like Chrissy knew it was coming. Because while the world panicked, she stayed quiet. No tears, no statements, just a cryptic message about storms and loyalty. And you better believe the industry noticed, especially Cameron, who didn't say a word. No shout out, no defense, no post, not even a Dipset solidarity tweet. And that silence says more than a press release ever could. Because if Jim's going down, the question becomes who goes with him. And if we rewind to 2019, Tekashi 6ix9ine's courtroom circus already dragged Jim's name into the dirt, calling him a 9-Trey affiliate. And though Jim never addressed it publicly, the streets kept receipts. And now, years later, the feds finally made their move. Not just on suspicion, but on a full-blown strategy, with charges stacked so high you need a ladder to read them. Racketeering, money laundering, weapons, drugs, and the kind of financial trail that screams organized. And they say they used wiretaps and surveillance to get it all, which only means one thing. Someone close flipped, someone in the circle wore a wire, and if you think Jim doesn't know who, think again, because his mugshot didn't show fear. It showed calculation. Like he's playing chess with prosecutors who already think they've won. But behind that calm was Chrissy, moving in silence, talking to lawyers, scrubbing social media, and shielding her name like she knew the blowback was coming for her too. And here's where it gets wild, because if Jim was laundering money through real estate and fashion, guess who helped him build those brands? Guess who sat front row at the meetings? And if you think the feds aren't looking at her too, you're naive. And that's why her silence isn't apathy. It's survival. But the Chrissy we know from Love and Hip Hop is loyal to a fault. The type to stick around through cheating scandals, failed proposals, and public embarrassment. But a federal case is different. A RICO charge can bury you. And right now she's either protecting Jim or preparing to protect herself. Because if they offer her immunity for cooperation, what does she do? Especially when their whole brand was built on love, unity, and Harlem royalty, and now that crown is slipping. And let's not forget Cameron, because Dipset is more than music. It was an empire, one that danced on the edge of street credibility and commercial success. But Cam's been distancing himself from Jim for years, quietly dodging reunions, focusing on sports talk and pink power plays, and when Jim's arrest hit the news, Cam's Instagram stayed promo ready, not a single mention, not even a subliminal, which tells you everything about how fragile that brotherhood really is. And word on the street is Cam warned Jim about certain business moves, about certain people in his circle. But Jim didn't listen. And now Cam's staying out the blast radius. And while fans might think that's betrayal, real ones know that. When the feds come knocking, silence is protection. And speaking of silence, Chrissy finally broke hers with a post about standing by your man through storms. But insiders say she's not sleeping. She's planning, calling lawyers, mapping out worst-case scenarios. Because if Jim falls, she loses everything too, unless she distances herself fast. And that's the catch. Does love outweigh survival? Especially when whispers say this isn't Jim's first dirty dollar. That he's been moving cash through shell companies, crypto pumps, and designer lines that barely sold. And now every deal is being dissected, every partner interviewed. And with the feds this deep, they don't stop at one arrest. They dig until someone big breaks. And it's no coincidence that names like Meek Mill and Rick Ross are being whispered in back channels, because once you connect to a RICO defendant, your texts, calls, and finances get audited too. And some of these rappers didn't know their features or investments tied back to Jim's pockets, and the wildest part? Jim knew this was coming. He even joked about feds in interviews, but that wasn't paranoia, it was prophecy. And now his freedom depends on what Chrissy and Cameron don't say and what his inner circle already said. Because if there's a rat in the crew and it ain't obvious yet, that means they're playing deep cover, and the feds love a quiet mole. Someone who collects without stirring the water. And that might be why Jim kept his cool. Because he knows who it is and he's not ready to burn that bridge just yet. Maybe he thinks he can flip the table in court, or maybe he's waiting for a better deal, but one thing is clear. Chrissy's next move will speak volumes, and if she testifies, even indirectly, the industry will treat her like a pariah. But if she stays loyal and this goes south, she could lose more than her man. She could lose everything. And meanwhile, Cam's camp is watching from the sidelines, sipping tea and staying silent, because Dipset might be legendary. But legends fall when feds get involved, and if more arrests drop, Expect names you never thought would be mentioned, because this case isn't just about Jim. It's about the system, about who knew what and when, and how the music industry masks criminal networks with glitz, glamour, and ghost accounts. And while fans debate guilt or innocence, Chrissy's deleting photos, Cam's dodging interviews, and Jim's sitting in a cell, playing chess while the world plays checkers. Because the game changed the moment that Wire got activated. And now it's not about music, it's about survival. So subscribe now, because the next headline might be about Cameron, Chrissy, or someone you never expected, and you don't want to miss the next move in this Harlem tragedy.